more, depending on the collector demand for toned coins. But remember, these types of coins are not common, and unless the toning is extremely striking, most blackened coins won't fetch much more than face value or a little above. So, if you've got a 1965 Jefferson nickel in black shade condition, it's likely worth somewhere between 10 cents to $1, with a few exceptions depending on the unique nature of the toning. If you think your coin has more to it than meets the eye, it's always worth checking with a professional coin dealer or getting it graded. Make sure to keep an eye out for rare toning patterns, as they could make your nickel more valuable than expected. Next up, the 1981 Monticello Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark in fine condition. Stick around to learn what it's worth in today's market and why it could be more valuable than you think. First, let's take a quick look at the 1981 Jefferson nickel. This coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, his Virginia home, on the reverse, just like the classic design that has been used since the 1930s. What makes this coin unique is the P mint mark on the reverse, indicating it was minted in Philadelphia. This was actually the first year the P mint mark appeared on regular issue circulating coins, which makes it an interesting piece for collectors. Now, let's talk about the condition. When we say fine condition, we're referring to a coin that has noticeable wear but still retains a fair amount of detail. On a 1981 Jefferson nickel in fine condition, you'll likely see a little bit of flatness on the high points of the design, like Jefferson's cheek and the Monticello building. But the details will still be clear enough to identify the coin and appreciate its features. Fine coins may show some scratches or discoloration, but there's still a big step up from heavily worn or corroded coins. So, what's the value of a 1981 Monticello Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark in fine condition? In today's market, you can typically expect to see it priced around 25 to 50 cents. It's not a rare coin, and because it's from a more recent minting year, its value isn't going to skyrocket unless it has some unique features. However, don't be disappointed by the lower value range. The 1981 P nickel is part of a broader set of coins from the early 1980s that collectors keep an eye on, especially if they are well preserved or part of a complete set. For example, if your 1981 P nickel is in better than fine condition, say very fine or even AU, almost uncirculated, it could be worth a few dollars, maybe even up to $5. But it's also worth noting that if your coin has a unique error, like a doubled die or unusual strike, that could greatly increase its value. Rare errors on nickels from the 1980s are often of interest to collectors. So, if you've got a 1981 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark in fine condition, it's probably worth around 25 to 50 cents. But keep an eye out for any unique features that could make your coin more valuable, like errors or higher grades. If you think your coin is in better condition or has a rare feature, it might be worth having it graded by a professional. Next up, the 1942 Monticello Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark, specifically one in black color shade condition. Stick around to find out how much this unique coin could be worth in today's market. Let's start with a quick overview of the 1942 Jefferson nickel. This coin features the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, on the reverse. But the 1942 nickel is particularly interesting because of the transition in metal composition during World War II. In 1942, the US government began using silver in the nickel's composition due to wartime needs for nickel. The regular Jefferson nickel was 75% copper and 25% nickel, but the 1942 version was made with 56% copper, 35% silver, and 9% manganese. This makes the 1942 nickel somewhat special. And if your coin has the P mint mark, that means it was minted in Philadelphia, which is key for collectors. Now, let's talk about the black color shade condition. This isn't a minting error or a rare variety. It's simply a coin that has developed dark toning or tarnish over time due to exposure to environmental factors. The black shade is often caused by factors like oxidation, dirt accumulation, or storage in less than ideal conditions. While the black color might make it look different from a typical shiny nickel, this doesn't necessarily add or subtract much value in itself. However, it does make the coin more unique, and some collectors really appreciate coins with interesting or unusual toning. In general, if the coin is in blackened condition but still in reasonable shape, you're looking at a value of around 50 cents to $1. This is typical for coins that show heavy tarnish or have a black shade but don't feature any rare errors or unique attributes. Even though the black toning doesn't add a ton of value on its own, a 1942p nickel can still be a decent find, especially for casual collectors or those building sets. But here's where it gets interesting. If your 1942p nickel with the black color shade condition has clearer detail of a rare rainbow effect or creates some unusual patterns on the coin, collectors who specialize in toned coins might pay a premium for it. In these cases, the coin could be worth up to $5 to $10 or even more if it's in exceptional condition despite the toning. Additionally, if the coin has any rare minting errors or was stored in a way that preserved more of its original detail despite the toning, that could further increase its value. So, in short, a 1942 Monticello Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark in black color shade condition is likely worth between 50 cents and $1 in typical circulated condition. However, if your coin has unusual toning or is in better condition than most, it could potentially be worth more. If you think your coin has something special, it might be worth getting it professionally graded or appraised to find out its true value. Next up, the 1954 Monticello Jefferson nickel without a mint mark in extra dirty condition. If you've got one of these lying around, stick around to find out how much it's worth in today's market. First, let's take a quick look at the 1954 Jefferson nickel. This coin features the famous portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, on the reverse. It's part of the ongoing series that has been in circulation since the 1930s, but the 1954 nickel holds some significance for collectors. The 1954 nickel was minted in large numbers, so it's not considered rare. However, there is something special about how the coin was minted and its place in the overall nickel series. The no mint mark version means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is the key detail for identifying this coin. Now, let's talk about that extra dirty condition. You've probably seen coins like this before. Heavily tarnished, covered in dirt or grime, and with most of the original shine completely worn away. This kind of dirt or grime can build up from years of handling or storage, leaving the coin looking far from pristine. While these coins don't have any rare features or minting errors, they can still hold some value, even in this condition. So, how much is a 1954 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark in extra dirty condition worth today? In most cases, this type of coin would be valued at just 5 to 10 cents, basically close to its face value, which is a quarter of a dollar. Coins in extra dirty condition typically don't see a big bump in value unless they have some other unique features like a rare error or a very high level of preservation despite the dirt. So, while your 1954 nickel may have a lot of character, it's not going to fetch a significant price unless it's in better shape. But here's the thing. If your coin is in extra dirty condition, but has been well preserved underneath the dirt, it might still have potential. If the coin is cleaned or the dirt can be removed without damaging the surface, you may be able to bring out the original details, which could raise its value slightly. Keep in mind that cleaning coins can be risky for collectors. If you clean a coin improperly, you could damage it, which would lower its value. It's often best to leave coins in their natural state, unless you know exactly what you're doing. Also, if your 1954 nickel happens to have some sort of rare error, like a doubled die or misstruck features, it could be worth more, even if it's a bit dirty. These types of errors are what truly drive up the value for seemingly ordinary coins. So, in summary, if you have a 1954 Monticello Jefferson nickel in extra dirty condition, don't expect it to be worth much, probably around 5 to 10 cents. But keep in mind that if the coin is in better condition than it appears or has a rare feature, its value could rise. If you're unsure whether your coin has something special, it might be worth getting it checked out by a professional coin dealer or even a grading service. Next up, the 2000 Monticello Jefferson nickel with a D mint mark in extra fine condition. If you've got one of these in your collection, stay tuned to find out what it's worth in today's market. Let's start with the basics. The 2000 Jefferson nickel is part of the ongoing Monticello series, which has featured Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse since the 1930s. This particular coin features the D mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Unlike earlier years, where the design was more traditional, the 2000 nickel was part of a special initiative to redesign the reverse, showcasing an updated depiction of Monticello. It was one of the last coins in the series to feature this design before the reverse was modified again in 2004. Now let's talk about the coin's condition extra fine. When we say extra fine, we're talking about a coin that has been lightly circulated but still retains almost all of its detail. An extra fine coin will show some wear, especially on the high points like Jefferson's hair or the roof of Monticello, but the design will still be sharp and easily recognizable. The wear is noticeable, but not to the point where it significantly detracts from the coin's overall look. In fact, extra fine coins are often considered to be some of the best examples of a circulating coin. So, how much is a 2000 Jefferson nickel with a D mint mark worth in extra fine condition today? In the current market, you can typically expect it to be worth around 25 to 50 cents. While this is a relatively modern coin, it's still in good demand among collectors, especially for those working on completing full sets of Jefferson nickels. The 2000 D nickel is not considered rare, but its well-preserved condition means it can fetch a slightly higher value than a more worn coin. So, could this coin be worth more than 50 cents? Absolutely. If your 2000 D nickel is in better than extra fine condition, like almost uncirculated AU, or has a special feature like an error, it could be worth significantly more. For example, a coin that's in mint state or has a unique strike could sell for several dollars. Coins with minting errors, such as double dies or off-center strikes, could push the value up even more. In fact, if you found a 2000 D nickel with a rare error, it could be worth $10 to $20 or more. So in summary, a 2000 Monticello Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark in extra fine condition is typically worth between 25 and 50 cents in today's market. It's a solid find, especially if you're a collector, but it's not a coin that's going to break the bank unless it's in better condition or has a rare feature. If you think your 2000 D nickel is in exceptional condition or has an error, it might be worth having it graded by a professional to get an accurate value. Next up, the 1964 Monticello Jefferson nickel without a mint mark in good condition. Stay tuned to find out how much this classic coin is worth in today's market. Let's start with a quick overview of the 1964 Jefferson nickel. This coin features the well-known portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, his Virginia home, on the reverse. The 1964 nickel is part of the long-running series of Jefferson nickels, which has been in circulation since the 1930s. In 1964, the design was still largely unchanged from its original release, except for the transition to using more nickel and copper in the coin's composition. The key thing about this 1964 nickel is that it's part of a larger batch struck at the Philadelphia Mint, meaning it does not have a mint mark. Now, let's talk about what good condition means for this coin. In numismatics, good condition is often considered the point where a coin has visible wear but is still legible and recognizable. The details on a coin in good condition will be worn down, especially on the high points, like Jefferson's cheek and Monticello's roof, but the overall design will still be distinct. A good grade usually indicates that the coin has been in circulation for a while and shows signs of use, such as scratches, dents, or discoloration, but the main features are still easy to identify. So, how much is a 1964 Monticello Jefferson nickel without a mint mark in good condition worth today? Well, in the current market, it typically ranges from 5 to 10 cents. Even though the 1964 nickel is over 50 years old, it's still quite common. Because it was minted in such large quantities, there's a lot of these coins in circulation. That means it's not rare or highly valuable unless it's in significantly better condition or has some unique attributive. For example, if your 1964 nickel is in fine or very fine condition, it could be worth more, closer to $1 or even slightly higher. Also, if your coin has any minting errors such as a doubled die, off-center strike, or anything unusual about the design, that could increase its value. In some rare cases, coins with these types of errors could be worth anywhere from $5 to $25 or more, depending on the rarity and demand. So, to sum it up, a 1964 Monticello Jefferson nickel without a mint mark in good condition is typically worth around 5 to 10 cents. However, if your coin is in better shape or has a rare feature, it could be worth more. If you're not sure about the condition of your coin or if it has a unique error, it might be worth getting it appraised or graded by a professional to get a more accurate value. Next up, the 1959 Monticello Jefferson nickel without a mint mark, specifically one in black color shade condition. If you've got one of these unique coins in your collection, stay tuned to find out its value in today's market. Let's start with a quick overview of the 1959 Jefferson nickel. This coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, as well as his Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. The 1959 nickel is significant because it's one of the first coins struck after the minting of the 1950s series, and it marks a time when the Jefferson nickel design was already well established. This coin, minted in large numbers, doesn't feature a mint mark, which means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. While this coin isn't rare in itself, the condition and unique toning can play a role in its value. Now, let's talk about the black collar shade condition. This is a term that refers to coins that have developed a dark, almost black toning over time. The black appearance isn't the result of a minting error, but rather a natural process caused by factors like oxidation, exposure to moisture, or years of storage in poor conditions. As you can see, the black coloration doesn't necessarily mean the coin is damaged, it's just toned. However, it's important to note that the black shade doesn't usually add significant value unless there's something particularly unique about the toning. In most cases, a 1959 nickel in black color shade condition will be worth between 5 to 10 cents, which is close to its face value. Even though it's over 60 years old, coins with toning or discoloration don't tend to fetch high prices unless they are rare or in higher grades. While the black shade may make the coin stand out, it doesn't necessarily make it significantly more valuable unless it has a rare error or is in much better condition. If the black toning on your coin is unique, such as creating a rainbow effect or a striking, visually appealing pattern, some collectors may be interested in paying a premium for that. Some people collect coins with unusual or vibrant toning, and in these cases, your 1959 nickel could be worth more, possibly up to $5. Additionally, if your 1959 nickel has any rare minting errors, such as a doubled die, off-center strike, or some other anomaly, that could dramatically increase its value. Coins with errors can range anywhere from $10 to $50 or more, depending on the rarity of the mistake. So, in summary, a 1959 Monticello Jefferson nickel with no mint mark in black color shade condition is usually worth between 5 to 10 cents. However, if the toning is exceptional, or if your coin has a rare minting error, it could be worth much more, up to $5 or even higher. Before you clean it or assume the toning isn't valuable, remember that sometimes toning can actually enhance a coin's value if it's rare or visually interesting. If you think your coin might have something special, it can be worth getting it appraised or graded by a professional. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coin collecting content. See you next time. Happy collecting.